Well, here we are on the Star Trek episode that many see as the best of the original series, that being Harlan Ellison's The City on the Edge of Forever. Yeah, I know it wasn't the original script that he wrote, and of course, Harlan being Harlan, he was always rather bitter about it and all that. But that being said, everyone tends to really enjoy this particular episode, and it's the impossible choices that one has to make, and probably is largely seen as the one time that Captain Kirk really was in love instead of just chasing skirts. So of course we have a kind of similar situation somewhat. I don't know if that was intentional or not, probably not. But the opening is, the galaxy's in trouble. There's some weird thing on this planet sending out waves that seem to displace time. And so I thought that was a bit similar to what happened in the Alternative Factor, where, again, a time traveler is screwing around and causing a conflict between two parallel universes, and reality seemed to be winking out at times. Well, here they're suffering all kinds of turbulence in space, around this mysterious planet, and they're localizing the source of the problem. And then suddenly Sulu gets injured on the bridge, and McCoy gets called to help treat him, and he does, but he uses a medication that's highly potent, but of course he's a doctor, so McCoy knows the right dose to give to Sulu and help him out, and Sulu's fine. But then the ship gets rocked again with some more turbulence, and McCoy accidentally injects himself with the full amount of this particular drug, and he immediately goes crazy. He becomes incredibly paranoid and dashes off the bridge, fighting his way all the way to the transporter room and beaming himself down to this mysterious planet. So Kirk and Spock assemble an away team, and they beam down with some red shirts to go look for him. and as they do, Spock discovers the source of the time displacement, and it's this bizarre sort of ring sitting in a bunch of ruins of some ancient city, and I think Spock says it's like 10,000 centuries old. Jeez Louise. But it was some probably advanced race that must have destroyed themselves or what have you, and they've achieved some incredible amounts in technology. And apparently this thing that calls itself the Guardian of Forever. And yes, it is somewhat, it's an artificial intelligence, if you will. And it's just been sitting there. And when Kirk is asking Spock really about what's his theories on this thing, the Guardian says, "I have been waiting for a question," and explains that basically the machine is a time machine. It can send you to anywhere in time and space. And that's what it's capable of. So maybe that's what led to the destruction of the people who built it, or they all escaped into other times and space elsewhere, and that was the end of that society, and where they went and where they've gone and what they've done. Who knows? A similar situation with time travel will happen again in a future episode, but for right now, we'll keep with this, where this strange, mysterious, ancient technology that leads to the events of the episode. Well, of course, McCoy, they managed to subdue him with the Vulcan nerve pinch, but then Kirk and Spock are curious about this device, and they're studying it and everything, and then McCoy wakes up and dashes in there, and Kirk can't stop him in time, and he jumps through the portal, and he's gone. And he's gone back in the past, and he's changed history. So now there is no Starship Enterprise, and I guess because they're within the envelope of the machine itself, they still exist, but their whole era and timeline is gone. And the machine was responding mostly to Kirk, so it viewed it was showing the history of Earth, and they run a bunch of stock footage from other films, but nevertheless, you get the point. And so Spock figures out that with the tricorder, he's able to pretty much gauge at what point in time McCoy went into, and they decide they need to get in a little before he did so they can prevent whatever it is he did. And so they do this, and then Kirk tells Scotty and Uhura and the other two red shirts that if we don't come back after a certain amount of time, each one of you needs to pair up and try to do the same. And if it doesn't work, well, at least you'll live out your lives in some past era. So Kirk and Spock dash through, and of course, this is where the story takes place. Now, and it's a clever use. They had that, the basic set of the alien world with the Guardian ring or whatever it is, and or portal, and the rest of it is the basic backlot sets that they've already made use of, and prompts and whatnot from the bygone era of the 1930s during the Depression era. And which is one of these aspects of probably, hey, can you come up with a story that takes them to something like that so that we can make use of this stuff and it won't be so costly to build sets and stuff trying to create alien worlds and whatnot. So, yeah, clever use of that. But, of course, it's the usual things of time travel. They got to figure out, come up with stories about Spock's appearance. He's obviously Chinese and had some sort of accident with a harvester that stretched his ears. But each step they make, it goes to the theory that one little thing you do could alter time and everything's different. And you could argue, even though they set things back, did they really? You don't really know. I mean, in one instance, Spock right off the bat has to do the nerve pinch on a police officer so they can escape while they're stealing clothes. Well, what if that did some damage to the guy? More importantly, Dr. McCoy inadvertently kills a man. He doesn't do it himself directly, but he passes out, and he has one of those electric phasers on his belt, and this little vagrant picks it up and looks at it and messes with it and activates it, and it disintegrates him along with the phaser too. But still, you can say, well, he was just some bum, but who's to say? Who knows, and he's gone, and he's only dead because this guy from the future shows up looking like Linda Blair, passes out, and he grabs this, weapon from the future, and it kills him. And so it wasn't supposed to happen that way, but it did. So I don't know. But meanwhile, of course, Spock figures out how to get on the internet of time and space and see the possible outcome. So they meet, of course, Edith Keeler, who is played by Joan Collins, the love of Kirk's life. And she's running this soup kitchen and what have you. And she's got all these futurist ideals, and they're all impressed with her because a lot of her ideas are true. It will happen. They will harness the power of the atom. They will send men to the moon and all that sort of stuff. But she's also pushing this pacifist, peaceful philosophy, and it's all well and good. The problem is, as Spock points out, she's right, but it's just the wrong time, because you needed to maintain warlike behavior because of the Nazis. So had she lived, her ideas would have been adopted and pushed forth, and America would have become more of a pacifist country and stayed out of the war. And so the Nazis developed the bomb first and win the war, and the Earth goes into darkness. And they never joined the Federation, apparently, because there's no Starship Enterprise and whatnot. All of this because she's supposed to die in a car accident, but Dr. McCoy saves her. So, of course, Kirk, he's fallen in love with this woman and all this stuff, and he has to let this happen. Now, of course, at the moment that this happens, she meets Dr. McCoy separate from them, and there's a scene where Spock almost sees him and they don't. It's all this, damn it, almost had it, if they just could have got him then, But, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe, like, right there, they went to a movie and they're coming home on their date and everything, and then she mentions Dr. McCoy, and Kirk says, McCoy, well, holy crap, you've seen him, and all this stuff. And he tells her, wait here, don't move. And he's going to go get Spock. And then suddenly there's McCoy, and they all three meet. And she's all very curious about these people. And she can't help herself. She wants to see what this is all about. And she says, well, golly, they even know him and all this stuff. And I'm thinking that Kirk's idea was that maybe, just maybe, they could just take her with them to the future. And that way her influence and all that on the time wouldn't happen because she dies anyway in that time. But instead of dying, she just goes to the future and has no real effect on the timeline anymore. But of course, fate has its own plans, and as a result of this, he couldn't do it. Maybe, but at the time it's happening, he realizes what's about to happen, and so he stops McCoy from saving Edith. And McCoy's just like, "What the hell, man? Don't you understand what you just did?" And then, of course, Spock, he knows, and so he's devastated. And yeah, there's no joke at the end for a freeze frame of the credits. No, it's just Kirk, let's get the hell out of here. He's had enough of the Guardian for forever. And this is one of these things that I have to assume that the Federation would have sent people to deal with this technology and shut it off and then store it somewhere so no one can get a hold of it. What happened to the Guardian of Forever? I mean, it's just there's a lot of time machines in Star Trek, and more than there should be, thanks to recent versions of it and all that. But nevertheless, yeah, I would think they would, send a team to deal with that thing and then spirit it away and keep it under lock and key. And well, if someone who actually understood Star Trek and wanted to do like prequel series and stuff like that on different eras, it could have made for an interesting story. But unfortunately, there's no one available capable of doing things like that because for some reason they just can't watch the old show. They just want the brand name, So anyway, yeah, it's a heartbreaking episode. It's one of these, oh, you're almost there. Oh, you could have done this. Oh, you could have done that, and maybe the option of bringing her to the future was not there. I don't know. I mean, we don't really see how is it once they've resolved what they've done, the Guardian brings them back. I'm not sure exactly how that works. It's not explained. They show up, they manage to go back and get their uniforms, and they're all ready to go. But yeah, what is it? How did that happen or whatnot? Doesn't really matter. They just figured it out. It's not like it's some giant plot hole or what have you. But it's the point of the matter is Kirk has had his heart seriously broken through a series of events that was all because of some stupid accident. And there you go. So yeah, if there's going to be the best one of the bunch, then I guess this one's it. Just on performances and the terrible conundrums of the choice that they're forced to make. All right, thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you, most notably my comic book Night Night over at indieplanet.com. You can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on radiomisfits.com and another.com that has my videos. That would be BitChute. Yes, the Mr. Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.